Most men don't realize it, but they're giving up control without even knowing it. Not because they're weak or clueless, but because no one ever taught them how subtle power plays really work in today's dating world. It's not just about attraction anymore. It's about emotional leverage, influence, control. See, the most dangerous tactics women use aren't loud or obvious. They're quiet, calculated. You won't hear shouting or see ultimatums. What you'll get is silence that punishes, compliments that confuse, and moments that leave you feeling guilty for things you didn't even do. Before long, you're adjusting your behavior without her saying a word. You second-guess yourself, shrink your boundaries, and slowly trade your authenticity for approval. That's not connection. That's manipulation in disguise. And no, this isn't about blaming women. It's about recognizing the game so you stop losing it. Because if you don't know the rules, you'll keep wondering why things always feel off, why you feel stuck, uncertain, or not good enough. In this video, we expose 7 covert tactics women use to gain psychological control. Methods designed to create emotional dependence without ever appearing toxic. Once you can see these patterns clearly, you'll stop falling for them. You'll respond with clarity and strength. And most importantly, you'll take back your power, for good. Let's break it down. No drama, no bitterness, just the truth every man needs to hear. Key number 1, guilt trips. This is one of the oldest and most effective manipulation tactics a woman will use to get you to fold. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's psychological warfare. A guilt trip doesn't require logic or facts, just emotion. A woman who knows how to guilt trip a man has figured out how to control his decisions without force. She taps into your sense of responsibility, shame, and fear of being labeled the bad guy. She'll make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. Say no to something unreasonable, and suddenly she's the victim. She'll act hurt, distant, or cold, not because she's genuinely upset, but because she knows it will pressure you into backing down. She'll remind you of what she's done for you in the past. She'll bring up sacrifices she's made, favors she's done, or times she supported you, anything to twist your arm emotionally. It's subtle, but deadly. The power in a guilt trip is that it makes you question your own sense of right and wrong. You might have every reason to stand your ground, but suddenly you're feeling selfish, cold, or ungrateful just for prioritizing your own needs. That's not love. That's emotional manipulation. And most men cave to it because they don't want to be seen as heartless. The worst part, she won't ever say, "I'm making you feel guilty." She won't need to. She'll just give you that tone, that look, that silence. She'll pull back affection. She'll withdraw. And the moment you start apologizing or changing your decision just to make peace, she wins. She knows she can pull those strings anytime you don't comply. This is where men get trapped. You start overcompensating. You buy things to make up for saying no. You agree to things just to avoid conflict. You're no longer operating from strength. You're reacting from guilt. And once you start giving in, it becomes a pattern. You train her to see guilt as a tool that works, and trust me, she'll keep using it. To break out of this, you need to catch it early. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it's right or because I don't want her to be upset with me? Guilt is only effective if you let it control your actions. Once you stop responding the way she expects, the guilt trip dies in silence. She'll either adjust or she'll leave. But either way, you take your power back. Every man needs to understand this. You're not responsible for her emotions when you're doing what's best for your life. You're not evil for saying no. You're not cold for having boundaries. And once you stop allowing guilt to guide your behavior, you stop being easy to control. Key number 2, withholding affection. This one is dangerous because it's silent, calculated, and it plays directly on your natural masculine instinct to fix things. When a woman starts withholding affection, she's not just being moody, she's flipping the script. She knows that affection is currency. Touch, attention, warmth, compliments, sex. These aren't just expressions of love anymore. They become tools. And when she takes them away, she's sending a message. Do what I want, or I'll disconnect from you emotionally and physically. At first you think it's just a bad day. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe she's tired. But then it becomes a pattern. She's less affectionate, less responsive, less available. You go in for a kiss, she turns her head. You try to talk, she's on her phone. You initiate sex, she just doesn't feel it. And every time you ask what's wrong, she says, "I'm fine." That's a trap because it's not about talking. It's about punishing you without saying it directly. What's really happening here is she's training you. Every time you say something she doesn't like or act in a way that doesn't fit her ideal version of you, she pulls back. Not in an obvious way, just enough to make you notice. And because you're emotionally invested, you'll do almost anything to bring that affection back. You'll adjust your tone, change your behavior, over-apologize, even go out of your way to please her just to feel that warmth again. And when she finally gives you a little piece of it back, it feels like a reward. That's the cycle. She withholds, you chase, she gives a little, you feel relieved. Over time, you become addicted to her approval. You start measuring your value as a man based on how affectionate she is. And without even realizing it, you've handed over control of your emotional state. This tactic works especially well on good men who want to make their woman happy, who take relationships seriously. She doesn't have to yell, nag, or argue. All she has to do is go cold. You'll come crawling back. But what you need to realize is this. Affection should never be a weapon. It should never be used as leverage to bend you into submission. Once you see it for what it is, you stop reacting the way she wants. The key is to stay grounded. If she withdraws, don't chase it. Don't panic. Don't jump through hoops. Step back, observe. Let her sit in her silence. If she's genuinely upset, she'll talk. But if she's playing games, you show her those games don't work on you. You don't reward emotional manipulation with more attention. You reward real communication with maturity and presence. That's how you flip the power dynamic back in your favor. You're not here to earn affection like a dog earns treats. You're a man. You lead. You set the tone. And you don't beg for what should be mutual. Key number 3, playing the victim. This manipulation tactic is one of the most frustrating and yet most effective tools women use when they want to flip the blame, deflect responsibility, and make you feel like the villain in your own story. It doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter if you stayed calm, respectful, and logical. Once she steps into victim mode, the facts don't count anymore. Only emotions do. And in her emotional world, she's always the one who's hurt, misunderstood, or mistreated. Here's how it works. You call out her disrespect. Maybe she said something out of line, disrespected your time, or crossed a boundary. But instead of acknowledging her part in it, she starts crying. She looks at you like you're the one attacking her. Suddenly, she brings up things from weeks ago to make herself look wounded. She'll say things like, "I can't believe you're saying this to me after everything I've been through." Or "You always find a way to make me feel like I'm not enough." Now you're standing there confused. All you did was hold her accountable, but now the spotlight's back on you. You're the aggressor. You're the reason she's sad. You're the cause of her pain. And worst of all, she somehow made the whole situation about her feelings, rather than the real issue you brought up. That's how playing the victim works. It turns confrontation into guilt, and guilt into control. If you've ever been in an argument that ends with you apologizing when you were the one who had a right to be upset, then you've been played by this tactic. And the more emotionally invested you are, the more effective it becomes. Good men especially fall for this because they care. They don't want to hurt their woman. So when she shows tears or retreats into sadness, it pulls at their empathy. But empathy without awareness makes you vulnerable. Women who use this tactic master the art of twisting perception. They know how to paint themselves as fragile, emotional, and helpless, only to gain sympathy and avoid accountability. They'll exaggerate their stress, their past, even their pain, all to distract you from the fact that they've crossed a line. But here's the truth. Pain doesn't excuse bad behavior, and being emotional doesn't make someone right. If you constantly find yourself walking on eggshells, afraid of upsetting her because she might break down or act like a victim, you're already under her control. The solution? Stay firm. Acknowledge her emotions, but don't lose sight of the original point. Stick to facts. Don't let her derail the conversation by shifting blame. If she won't take accountability and always turns herself into the victim, you need to ask yourself if you're in a relationship or a performance. A real woman owns her mistakes. A manipulator plays helpless to keep power. You're not cold for demanding respect. You're not cruel for wanting honesty. You're a man who refuses to be guilt-tripped by emotional theater. Key number 4. Comparison games. This tactic is one of the most underhanded ways a woman can manipulate your mindset and slowly destroy your confidence piece by piece. It doesn't start with full-blown insults. It starts with subtle comments. Maybe she says, "My ex used to surprise me more." Or, "I wish you were a little more like my friend's boyfriend." These words might seem harmless at first, but they are crafted to plant a seed of insecurity deep inside your mind. Comparison games are meant to create a feeling of inadequacy in you. She wants you to believe you're not doing enough, not romantic enough, not successful enough, not assertive enough. The goal is to keep you striving, trying harder, doing more, chasing her approval. Because once she has you stuck in that cycle, she's in control. She becomes the judge of your worth, and you start living for her validation instead of your standards as a man. You'll notice how these comparisons always point upward, never downward. She never says, "I'm grateful you're better than the last guy." No, she brings up someone who has something you don't. More money, more style, a better body, a stronger voice, and you start wondering if she sees you as second best. That's the manipulation. She's not asking you to improve. She's playing on your ego, using your pride against you. The real danger is this. Over time, you stop feeling like the man in the relationship. You start feeling like a contestant in a race you didn't sign up for. You're constantly trying to outperform imaginary rivals. You spend your energy trying to be what she wants instead of standing strong in who you are. And in doing so, you give up your power. You forget that you are the prize, not just a man trying to win her affection by beating the ghost of her past lovers or her ideal fantasy. You need to recognize this tactic for what it is, a game of leverage. The moment she senses you're competing for her validation, she knows she can raise the bar whenever she wants, and she will. She'll never be fully satisfied because her power comes from keeping you off balance. She doesn't want you to win, she wants you to keep chasing. So, here's what to do. The next time she compares you to another man, call it out calmly, directly. Let her know you don't compete with other men to earn your place. You show up as yourself. And if that's not enough, she's free to go and mean it. Because once you stop trying to live up to her comparisons, the manipulation loses its teeth. You must never allow anyone to define your worth by putting you side by side with someone else. That's weakness disguised as feedback. And the man who knows his value doesn't chase approval. He commands respect by walking away from anyone who tries to control him through music comparison. Key number 5. Emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail is not loud. It's not about screaming or slamming doors. It's quiet, calm, and calculated. And that's what makes it so effective. It's when a woman uses your emotions, your love, your loyalty, and your sense of duty as weapons against you. She knows what strings to pull. She knows what you fear, and she'll use that knowledge not to build something with you, but to bend you. This tactic often starts with a threat, not the kind you hear in movies, but the emotional kind. She might say, "If you really loved me, you'd do this," or "I guess I just don't matter to you anymore." Sometimes it's even more subtle, like her suddenly going cold, withdrawing affection, or acting like you've done something horrible without clearly saying what it is. That's emotional blackmail in action. It's about creating guilt, anxiety, or fear of loss in you to get what she wants. And here's the twisted part. It works especially well on strong men with a good heart. If you're the type who protects, provides, and keeps your word, you're the perfect target. She doesn't need to fight you directly. She just needs to make you feel like you've hurt her emotionally. That alone can make you compromise, backpedal, and give her control just to bring peace back into the relationship. At its core, emotional blackmail is all about manipulating your identity. She'll attack your sense of being a good boyfriend, a loving man, a solid leader, and she'll twist your values against you. So now, when you say no, she makes you feel cruel. When you set a boundary, she makes you feel selfish. When you stand up for yourself, she paints you as insensitive. This is how you get stuck in relationships where you feel constantly drained. You're always trying to avoid disappointing her, avoid triggering her silence, avoid losing her affection, and over time, your entire emotional state becomes tied to her reactions. That's not love, that's control. That's her shaping your behavior with guilt instead of mutual respect. To deal with emotional blackmail, you must first develop emotional clarity. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I genuinely want to, or because I'm afraid of how she'll react if I don't? That one question will expose whether you're being manipulated or not. Next, set firm boundaries and hold them. She'll test them. She'll act hurt. She'll give you the cold shoulder. Let her. Do not reward that behavior with submission. Instead, make it clear that emotional threats don't move you. Direct, honest conversations do. If she truly values the relationship, she'll stop using pain to control it. A real woman will never put your emotional stability on the chopping block to get her way. She'll respect your decisions, not guilt trip you into them. And you're not here to be emotionally twisted. You're here to lead, protect your peace, and love without being controlled. Key number 6, sudden silence. This is one of the most common and yet most misunderstood manipulation tactics women use to gain control. You've likely experienced it before. The conversation was going fine, maybe a little disagreement here or there. And then, out of nowhere, she goes completely silent. No calls, no texts, no explanations. Just cold emotional distance, like you suddenly disappeared from her world. And you're left there thinking, replaying the last few conversations, asking yourself what you did wrong. That's exactly what she wants. Sudden silence is not about needing space. It's not about being overwhelmed. It's about control. It's a psychological strategy designed to make you chase. She's betting that the longer she ignores you, the more power she gains. Because the silence doesn't just leave a void. It creates anxiety, confusion, and fear of loss in your mind. She knows most men can't handle uncertainty. She knows most men would rather fix things, explain themselves, or apologize just to restore peace. So, she pulls away without warning and waits for your emotional reaction. Now, what makes this tactic dangerous is that it seems harmless on the surface. She's not yelling, she's not cursing, she's just quiet. But in reality, this silence is loud with intention. It tells you, I'm punishing you. I want you to feel this. I want you to worry. She may even post on social media looking happy and unbothered while privately ignoring your messages. That's not someone taking time to reflect. That's someone playing chess with your emotions. This tactic works best on men who feel guilty easily or hate emotional tension. If you're the kind of man who feels a need to fix everything instantly, sudden silence will drive you crazy. You'll start overthinking. You'll send follow-up messages. You'll explain, apologize, and even beg for a response. And guess what? The more you do that, the more power you give away. She now knows she can control you by simply vanishing. Women use this tactic to regain leverage when they feel like you're getting too strong emotionally, too confident, or too independent. Silence becomes their way of rebalancing the power dynamic, making you feel uncertain while they sit back and watch you unravel. What should you do? The opposite of what she expects. You don't chase silence. You match it. You protect your dignity by staying calm and grounded. If she wants to go quiet, let her. Don't double text. Don't beg. Don't start explaining yourself like you're on trial. Instead, use that time to reflect on why she's behaving this way. Is this a pattern? Is this someone who solves problems with communication or with manipulation? A woman who genuinely cares about you doesn't punish you with absence. She talks, listens, and engages even during conflict. But if she uses silence as a sword, understand she's not trying to resolve anything. She's trying to train you. And the man who values himself doesn't let silence shape his actions. He leads with strength, not emotional reaction. Key number 7, shifting standards. This tactic is perhaps the most subtle and dangerous of all because it's disguised as progress. At first, everything feels perfect. She compliments you, supports you, and even makes you feel like you're the best man she's ever met. She sets the bar and you meet it. You feel like you're doing everything right. But then suddenly, it's not enough. The compliments stop. The appreciation fades. What used to please her now gets dismissed. The goalposts move, the rules change. What she once loved about you is now criticized, ignored, or even mocked. And when you ask what's wrong, you get vague answers, emotional withdrawal, or worse, blame. This is shifting standards. And it's a manipulation tactic designed to keep you off balance. She constantly redefines what's good enough, so you never actually reach it. The more you adjust, the more the bar moves. And the more it moves, the more you chase. It's no longer about being a good man. It becomes about trying to keep her satisfied, even if that means changing who you are. What's happening here is simple. She's creating an emotional imbalance, one where you're always trying to earn back her approval. It's a strategy that keeps you compliant, always working, always guessing. 1 minute she wants affection, the next she says you're too clingy. One day she loves that you're ambitious. The next she says you care too much about work. It's confusing. It's frustrating. And that's the point. Confusion keeps you weak. This kind of manipulation works on men who believe that a woman's happiness is their responsibility. If that's you, you'll fall right into the trap. You'll keep adjusting, compromising, trying to get it right. You'll believe that if you just love her harder, she'll return to how she used to be. But the truth is, she has no intention of going back because now she holds the power. And she knows as long as she keeps you working for her approval, you'll never feel confident enough to walk away. This is how you lose your sense of self in a relationship. You stop leading. You stop standing firm. You become reactive instead of grounded. You start asking her for permission to be who you are, and that's the beginning of the end. Not because she leaves you, but because you abandon yourself. So, how do you deal with shifting standards? You set your own. As a man, you need to have your non-negotiables. You need to know your values, your goals, and what you will and won't tolerate. If a woman keeps changing the rules on you, don't keep playing. Step back and evaluate. Ask yourself, is this a partnership or a performance? If it's the latter, leave the stage. A high-value man doesn't keep adjusting himself to stay in someone's life. He stands firm in who he is, and if that's not enough for her, he walks away. Not because he's bitter, but because he refuses to be controlled. If you've recognized these tactics in your experience, it's time to stop playing blind. Control doesn't always come with chains. It often comes through silence, guilt, and confusion. You weren't made to be molded into someone else's version of a man. You were made to lead, to protect your peace, and to choose relationships that honor your strength, not drain it. Walk away from manipulation without fear, because the moment you stop reacting to her games, you start reclaiming your power. And that's when real respect begins, not just from her, but more importantly from yourself. Stay sharp, stay grounded, stay in control. And remember, if you're serious about mastering the dating game, don't miss out on this channel. We go beyond what's covered in these videos, giving you powerful insights from the first approach to lasting attraction every day. I want to especially thank you for taking your time to watch till the end of this video. I hope the video helps you improve every aspect of your relationship with women. Until next time, see you in the next video.